The Sony A6700 and the Sony A7C are both great cameras, but they cater to slightly different audiences. And in this video, I'm basically just gonna get into what these differences are, and at the end of the video, I hope that you can make a more informed decision on which camera is right for you. Now, the biggest difference between these two cameras is that the A6700 is an APS-C camera, which means it's a crop sensor camera. Now, this camera has a 26 megapixel sensor. On the other side, the A7C has a 24 megapixel sensor, but it is a full frame camera. And basically the biggest difference between APS-C cameras and full frame cameras, even if one of the sensor sizes is bigger on the APS-C camera, the full frame camera will perform better in low light. It has a better dynamic range, and it has better depth of field control. Now, that doesn't mean that the Sony A6700 is bad at any of those things, but when you do compare an APS-C camera to a full frame camera, the full frame camera generally will outperform the APS-C camera in those categories. Now let's talk about autofocus and performance. The A6700 is a little bit of a newer camera, so it has AI-powered autofocus, which means real-time tracking, and it has the latest tech in its AI image processing. Like I said, the A7C is the older model, but its autofocus is still pretty solid. The A7C also has real eye autofocus, which means it can track a subject's eye really well and always keep that subject in focus. But because of the new AI tech, the A6700 is gonna win this category. Next, let's get into video capabilities. The A6700 shoots 4K at 120 frames per second. It can shoot 10-bit 422, and it has picture profiles like S-Log3 and Cinetone. When compared to the A7C falls pretty short. The A7C records in 4K 30 frames per second, and it only records in 8-bit 420. The A7C also does have picture profiles like S-Log3 and S-Cinetone, but not having the ability to shoot 4K 120 is, in my opinion, a big difference. So again, the A6700 is gonna win this category because it just has way better video specs with way higher frame rates and better color depth. The actual bodies of these cameras are a lot different as well. The A6700 is gonna be a lot lighter. It's got a little bit more of an ergonomic grip, and it has a fully articulating touchscreen, which if you're trying to do vlogging or videos like this where you're recording yourself, it is so nice to have. The A7C does have that same nice flip out touchscreen. It also has a little bit of a smaller grip, which is a little bit strange for a camera of this caliber when you're comparing it to a camera like the A7 IV, which has a very defined grip on it. It almost looks just weird, and it doesn't look like a full frame camera. The typical battery life that you're gonna get on these two cameras, the A7C is actually gonna be better than the A6700 in this category. With the A7C, you're gonna get around 740 shots per charge. And then with the A6700, you're only gonna get around 570. So the difference is honestly not that different or that crazy, but there is a difference there, and the A7C definitely does last longer. Now, one of the biggest topics to cover when comparing an APS-C camera to a full frame camera is just the different lens options. Because with an APS-C camera, you almost have to use E-mount lenses, because if you end up using full frame lenses on an APS-C camera, it's basically going to crop that lens. And it's pretty close to a 1.5 crop. It might be like 1.6 times. So essentially a 20mm lens, that would be a 20mm lens on a full frame camera. If you use that same 20mm lens on an APS-C camera, that lens is now going to look like a 30mm lens, which can either be a good thing or a bad thing. But for me, if I'm using an APS-C camera, I want to be using compatible APS-C lenses. I wouldn't want to use a full frame lens on an APS-C camera because I'm losing quality that way. So I highly recommend, if you're using a full frame camera, you should use a full frame lens. And if you're using an APS-C camera, you should use an APS-C or E-mount lens. Now, E-mount lenses, there are a lot of decent options out there, But when you compare E-mount lenses to full frame lenses, the APS-C lenses aren't bad and they are cheaper, which for someone who's on a budget is definitely something to be aware of. But other than that, you are going to get better quality images out of a full frame camera and full frame lenses. The G Master lenses are honestly just some of the best lenses and my favorite lenses that I've ever used. Now, staying on that topic of price, and I think this is probably either the reason you came to this video because you want comparisons and to see which one is going to be worth it, you know, the best bang for your buck. And in order to do this properly, I'm basically just going to go on Amazon and eBay and check a few places and see exactly how much each of these costs right at this exact moment. So looking at it right now, the A7C, right now, if you buy it today, just the body is $1,200. And I think that that is a super fair price for this camera. Now, a brand new body only A6700 is gonna run you about $1,350 right now, is about the cheapest I can find it. It looks like there's a refurbished version for $1,200, which is super comparable to the A7C. So when two cameras like this come down and they are very similar in price, there's really only one thing to do. And it's kind of a cop-out method that I think YouTubers do, but it's to say that I think, you know, whatever you think is more suitable for you is the one that you should buy. Like we talked about in this video already, there are so many things that the A6700 is way better at than the A7C. And personally, if I was trying to decide between these two cameras, I would probably go with the A6700. The only time that I really do recommend getting the full frame camera is when you do really want to focus on your lens options and the potential for upgrading in the future. And what I mean by this is basically if I eventually want to upgrade to the A7 IV, it would be a really annoying thing to have to sell all of my APS-C lenses in order to, you know, now buy full frame lenses to be compatible with my new camera. It's not an impossible thing, and I don't think it's like the worst thing ever, but I think in the long run, you definitely will lose more money that way than if you stick with a full frame and stay with a full frame. Again, it's not the worst thing ever, but that's kind of what I think happens. And it's a mistake that I've made in the past, and I've definitely lost a lot more money by doing that. Now, if I were to just want to start a YouTube channel, then the A6700 would probably be the way I go. It's got great specs, and honestly, it's not going to be considered like outdated for years and years and years to come. It's going to be pretty top of the line for the next, you know, potentially like 10 years. This could be a camera that you could use and still get great quality content out of it without having to worry about upgrading. So yes, it is a little bit of a cop-out thing for me to say you should go with the one that, you know, works for you best, but in full honesty, like that is 100% the truth. I am not the type of person to recommend like you should spend more or like you absolutely need this camera or you need that camera. But like when we're comparing these two cameras, obviously the A6700 is going to be way better in specs, but you know, you still have that full frame option kind of weighing heavily on your mind. But just know the A6700 is a fantastic camera. The A7C is a great camera, but honestly, I think the A6700 fits a lot more people's needs nowadays. It's just one of those things where it's very difficult to compare a camera that came out in 2020 versus a camera that came out in 2023. There's just a lot of new features that have come out since then, and honestly, those are very hard to ignore. But I think after thinking about it a little bit, I think I would definitely just go with the A6700, honestly. I think that one's gonna be the better option between these two cameras. Anyways, I hope that this video helped you come to a better and more, you know, educated conclusion to which camera you should buy. If you have any more questions between these two cameras, please leave them down in the comments below. I will try and respond to all questions that I get asked. Anyways, I really appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.